Today we have an exciting restaurant visit for you. We are back in Stockholm and I'm gonna visit restaurant Tegelbacken. This place is run and operated by Markus Aujalays. It opened in 2016 and is located in the central parts of Stockholm near the central station. Markus has a long record working as a chef and he's achieved many different things. In 2004 he became Chef of the Year in Sweden, and in 2007 he competed in Bocuse d'Or where he claimed a 5th place. You can also see him as the judge in MasterChef, and he also runs his own YouTube channel which is really popular. His restaurant has a unique interior where he's working a lot with the colors pink and purple. The menu is very international and modern and serves middle courses so you can have more options and eat more food during your visit here. Our options on the menu is either to choose what Markus recommends as a set menu or you go a la carte, and if you do that you have 3 different types of snacks to choose from, then you have around 10 middle courses to choose from and 2 desserts and a cheese plate at the end. For snacks I went with filled pâte choux here with Gruyere cheese and also an oyster that was with lime, soy and ginger. For me the pâte choux here was lacking a little bit of acidity, and I prefer when you make it maybe with a cheddar cheese that has that naturally. The oyster in the other hand was really delicate and nice, and I appreciated also that they had some cream on it, which is really lifting an oyster in a new way for me at least. Our first proper dish of the evening was salmon together with some green apple, yuzu, shiso leaves, jalapeno and ginger. And it was a really color spectrum to look here, and you can see that there's gonna be plenty of different textures and exciting flavors in this one. This dish is really standing out with freshness, and as I expected, there's plenty of textures going on here and the acidity is on a really high note, which is good because it's the first course that we're having tonight, and that really opened up your taste buds in a nice way. The salmon is really giving that creamy texture, and the green apple and the yuzu is bringing fruity notes throughout here, and then you have the complexity of the shiso leaf and the heat from the jalapeno and the ginger. I really enjoyed this dish. It's beautiful to look at and it's vibrant with a lot of different things going on, but everything works in high harmony here, so this was a really good choice for a first dish. Next to taste was the bread serving, and this consisted of a plain white loaf and some butter. For me this was a little bit of a letdown, and I was expecting maybe a higher quality of the bread and maybe also doing something more than the butter than just cutting it straight from the package here and just topping with some salt. If you're a frequent watcher of this channel, you probably know that I love beef tartare in different variations, and here we had one together with some oyster mayonnaise, we had some beetroot, dried vinegar and cress and dill. For me this was beautiful to look at, and I really liked the surprise element here when you have hidden the beef tartare inside of the roll here of the beetroots. But I'm sad to say here that this wasn't my favorite dish of the evening, and it was a little bit of a letdown in quality compared to the other dishes. Starting with the beef tartare itself here, it's mostly common in these days that you will cut the beef a little bit more in bigger pieces, but here it was finely minced and no problem with that, but it is a little bit for me lacking that texture, and it almost grows a little bit in your mouth while you're eating it. On top of that, the beef tartare was also room tempered, and I'm sure that that was how it was supposed to be. But again, for me, when eating raw meat, I really want to have it a little bit more fresh, and the coldness really helps here. So for me, again, having a beef tartare, bigger pieces and cold is key. The balance of this dish was also a little bit off for me, and the acidity came in form of the vinegar powder that you see scattered around on the plate here. But for me it just wasn't enough, and I wish there was maybe another form of acidity that would be on here just to lift the dish to that nice fresh level that I was expecting. The last savory course that I wanted to taste was corn-fed chicken together with some radishes, and we had morel mushrooms, and there were two different kinds of sauces here. One was a reduced chicken jus, and then there was a velouté sauce which was flavored with some cognac and Madeira. I don't know what you think, but this plate of food made me very happy just to look at. And starting with the chicken, a beautifully caramelization on the skin side, on the chicken breast, and also that they created a small lollipop using the thigh. Those small touches, when you see a little bit more work has gone into the actual details of the dish, that's something that I appreciate a lot. And then having some beautiful seasonal vegetables that is supporting this plate of food, and morel mushrooms is a favorite of mine. I can't have enough of them. I just think that they are the perfect mushroom that is so good to eat. This is tasting really good, and starting with the chicken, it's so juicy and tender, and it's giving a little bit of texture there with the caramelized skin, and then you have the different sauces there, and I think that that's a genius move, because sometimes when you're working with one sauce it can be a little bit plain, and just having that flavor note that is, lifting the other ingredients. But when you have two different types of sauces that are here that are also serving a little bit of different purposes, so obviously the reduced sauce is giving that punch of flavor to the dish, but then you have the velouté sauce that is basically a stock with some cream in it, and then that is giving that more lightness and creaminess to the dish, which is also very nice. I also want to highlight the radish here, and I'm not a really big fan of too bitter flavors on a plate. Sometimes they're just taking too much place according to me, but here having that seasonal vegetable that is also bringing a lot of sweetness, and the bitterness is just on the right level here to actually be quite pleasant to eat, and it's lifting all the other ingredients in a very complex way. The morel mushrooms is also very nicely fried, and the spinach leaves that you can see there is not only for decoration and giving some color to the plate, but it's really giving a nice also subtle flavor here. Finishing off, the small lollipop of chicken is really crunchy on the outside, and it's really nice to eat and chew on, so I really enjoyed this dish. It was one of the highlights of this evening. For dessert they had two different options to choose from, and one was a chocolate variation, but I went with the other one, which was a rhubarb dessert, and the rhubarb came in form of a sorbet. It was also some raw rhubarb on the plate and a consommé that was poured tableside. Also on the dish there was some cream cheese and some meringue. I absolutely love rhubarb, and you're in the summer season when you're having a dessert with that ingredients, and here it was a beautiful harmony of rhubarb that was used in a few different ways. The sorbet was really fresh, and the rhubarb flavor was deep in it, and then underneath there with the cream cheese spread with some vanilla tones brought a little bit of that smoothness to the dish, because as you know, rhubarb can have some acidity to it, and it's nice to calm that down in some way. And then we had the meringue layer on top there that brought some crispiness and some other flavor tones, and then the consommé of rhubarb was actually the only thing that I didn't like as much as I thought I would, because normally when you're cooking rhubarb and that liquid that you get out of it, it's so punchy with that nice rhubarb flavor, but here it was a little bit in the background, and I thought that I was gonna deliver a little bit more punch. But with that said, this dessert was really fresh and nice, and I really enjoyed to eat it. So what did I think then about my visit here to Markus Aujalays restaurant? And starting with the food, I have to say that some of the dishes have held a very high quality, but I was also a little bit let down by some of the dishes that was served this evening. So I'm gonna put the point here at 86, and that is still in the great category, so I think that's a very fair scoring for this restaurant. Continuing then with the service, and I'm putting that point at 84, which is in the higher end of good, and I think that that's a fair point to give on the service that was brought to us this evening. And ending up with the value scoring, I'm gonna put that point at 85. So I think it's actually been a really good value on this restaurant. We had a few bits of different dishes to taste, and I think that when you see all the cost here coming together, it's a fair pricing on here. I don't think anything actually stood out in a enormous way when it comes to the dishes here. So I think it's a fairly priced restaurant. And with that said, it brings end to this episode from Restaurant Tegelbacken in Stockholm, and I want to thank each and every one of you that are viewing this episode. And if you like the content, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow and be bigger and be able to create some better content in the future. Until next time, bye bye.